Hello, and welcome to the VLOOKUP tutorial. For this tutorial, I'm assuming you are familiar with Excel and that you understand how to enter formulas in Excel. By the end of this tutorial, you should be able to define VLOOKUP, explain how and why you would use each parameter in the VLOOKUP function, distinguish between absolute and relative cell references in Excel, list the different types of returns you can get from a VLOOKUP, and demonstrate how to use filters to view only cells without matches. Let's get started. VLOOKUP is a function in Excel that allows you to compare two lists to find matches. There are four parameters that are passed into the function. The lookup value is a single value from a list that you are looking for. The table array is a list of values from which you are searching for the lookup value. The column index number lets the function know which column to use if there are multiple columns in your table array. And the range lookup accepts the values of true and false. It lets the function know if you only want to find exact matches or if you would like it to return the greatest value from the table array that is less than your lookup value. Now I'm going to show you the VLOOKUP in action. For this demonstration, I'm going to compare a list of part numbers in stock to a list of parts needed for a project to identify the parts that I need to order to complete the project. Now I'm going to type equals VLOOKUP. You'll notice that as soon as I type the open parentheses, I get a tooltip that shows me all of the parameters that I can pass into the function and the sequence with which I should pass them in. The first parameter is the lookup value. And the lookup value, you'll remember, is the individual part that I'm looking for. The table array is the list of parts that I'm comparing that individual part to. For the column index number, we only have one column, so I will enter 1. And finally, for the range lookup, you'll notice that it's in brackets. That means that this parameter is optional, but we are going to go ahead and enter it for this tutorial. You'll also notice that it accepts values of true or false. True is an approximate match, false is an exact match. We only want this to return a value if we actually have the part in stock, so we will enter false for the range lookup. After you enter a VLOOKUP formula, if you have no errors, you will get one of two returns. The first returned is the matched value from the table array. In the example I just demonstrated, part number 1001 was returned in the cell because part 1001 is included in our list of parts in stock. The other possible value from a VLOOKUP is £n/A. This is the value that is displayed when the lookup value does not exist in the table array. In this example, part 1003 is not included in the list of parts in stock. Therefore, £NA is the return value for this lookup. Next, we are going to talk about cell references. Have you ever noticed that if you copy and paste a formula from one column to another, Excel is smart enough to change the column in the pasted value to the correct column? That is called a relative cell reference. A relative cell reference allows you to copy formulas across rows or columns without manually adjusting the row or column values. It is the default type of cell reference in Excel. However, for VLOOKUPs, relative references can be problematic for the table array. The table array list is always static. It does not move relative to the lookup value. Therefore, an absolute cell reference is needed. An absolute column or row reference will remain static when copied to a new column or row. To create an absolute reference, simply enter a $sign before the column or row values that should remain static. To demonstrate absolute cell references, I'm going to change the formula that we entered earlier to make the table array an absolute reference. Then I'm going to copy and paste this value down next to all of the parts that we have that are needed. And if you click into each individual cell, you will see that the table array remains the same for each row. The next thing that I want to do is use the VLOOKUP that I just created to determine which parts are in stock and which parts I need to order. To do this, I'm going to add a filter. To add a filter, I go to Data, and then I select Filter. You see the little arrows are created in the columns. So now I can select only the parts that are in stock, which are these parts right here, or I can select only the parts that are not in stock. Congratulations! You have now completed the VLOOKUP tutorial. You should now be able to define a VLOOKUP, explain how and why you would use each parameter in the VLOOKUP function, distinguish between absolute and relative cell references in Excel, list the different types of returns you can get from a VLOOKUP, demonstrate how to use filters to view only cells without matches. I highly recommend that you practice what I've shown you. A possible practice exercise is to create a spreadsheet that will compare a list of groceries in your pantry to a list of groceries on your shopping list to determine which items you need to purchase from the grocery store. I also suggest you try to list some real-life scenarios where VLOOKUPs would be useful. You also should try to use an HLOOKUP, which is very similar. If you have questions about lookups, the URL for the Microsoft site is listed below. You may also click on the link to visit the site directly. The site is very useful. You can also email me by clicking on the email address on your screen. I would love to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching.